The Red Dress by Kay Prickett. Published 1979, Urbana, Illinois. Jimmy looked down at the ruffles on her new red dress. She pulled the skirt out wide until it touched Robert. He squirmed. "Get that old dress off of me," he whispered. "All you've done all day is look at that dress." The teacher frowned and looked down her nose toward the bench full of first graders. She was listening to the eighth graders read. "Who's talking?" she demanded. A hand shot up. "Jimmy and Robert," tattled Louise. "Virginia," corrected the teacher. "Her name is Virginia, not Jimmy." "Virginia, you look very pretty in your new red dress today." The teacher smiled. Jimmy blushed. "Put your slates away, children." The teacher looked around. Third grade stand. 5 children swung their legs to the aisle and stood up. "Pass," the teacher said. They marched outside. School was out for the day. First grade was the last to be dismissed. "We'll have no talking and whispering during class, Virginia and Robert." Pass. Jimmy walked outside in time to hear her 5 brothers disappear over the hill into the woods. It was 2 miles home. Jimmy could keep up with them pretty well if she got out first. This evening they had a head start. Jimmy started running. "Wait for me," she shouted. They did not hear. They were in a hurry to get home and start feeding the pigs, chickens, and cows. Jimmy did not mind. She liked the woods. The leaves were still green. All around the katydids hummed and yellow flowers bloomed in the sunny spots. A squirrel ran up a tree. Overhead, a blue jay screamed. Jimmy looked around. The roads were dirt. The path to the schoolhouse crossed a road big enough for a wagon. She heard the dull thud of hooves. The old horse pulled a rattling wagon down the hill. Mr. Long sat in the wagon. He had the brakes on, and the brakes creaked against the wooden wheel. Jimmy put her hands over her ears. She waved and called, "Hello, Mr. Long." He smiled and answered, "Hello, Jimmy." Mr. Long could not let go of the reins and brake to wave. Jimmy watched the wagon go by before she crossed the road. She looked down at her new red dress and smiled, and she began to skip and sing to her own made-up tune. "Oh, my mammy made me a dress. She made it just for me. She made it out of chicken feed sack, and I picked it out at the store. There was just one red sack and no more. Oh, my mammy made me a dress. She made it just for me. My sister Rosie wanted it, but I got it, and I liked it. And I'm glad they had a red chicken feed sack at the store." Jimmy skipped around a turn in the path and almost ran smack into a cow. "Ulp," she gulped. "Excuse me, cow." The cow lowered her head and trotted around Jimmy. She was on her way home, too. All the cows were let out during the day to graze wherever they liked. In the evening, they went home to their own barns to be milked. Jimmy was not afraid of cows. She helped feed the cows at home. Jimmy started skipping again. She was glad it was just an old cow she had met and not a bull. "I hope I don't meet a bull," she said to herself. "Everybody knows bulls get very angry when they see red." Soon Jimmy heard a low moo behind her, and a dull clip-clop, clip-clop. She turned around. At the head of a long line of cows was a great big cow with a ring in its nose, a shiny brass ring. He was bigger than any cow she had ever seen. He was red and he had great big horns. She gasped. It was a bull. He was walking down the path behind her. What should I do? Jimmy whispered to herself. He's going the same way I am, and he will see my red dress, and he'll chase me. There's only one thing I can do, she said. I'll take off the red dress. She pulled it off over her head. Ah, she thought, now I'm safe. And she folded up the dress and put it under her arm. The red bull and all the cows walked along behind her. He can't see my red dress now, she said to herself. Jimmy looked down at her underslip. She clapped her hand over her mouth and stared. She had on a red underslip. She glanced over her shoulder at the bull. He was still walking toward her. Jimmy bit her lip. What should she do now? Jimmy took off running. Up the hill, past the squirrels, past a stray cow, around the turn, through the creek, past the cotton fields she ran. Not once did she look back. She ran past the blueberry bushes, beside the cornfield, through the barnyard. She did not stop until she reached the front porch. Jimmy, what's the matter? What are you doing in your underslip, child? Her mother stood on the porch. Oh, Mammy, it was the bull. He was chasing me. He was right behind me. I had on my red dress, so I took it off. And I forgot about my red underslip. Oh, I was so scared I didn't know what to do. Mammy laughed and hugged Jimmy. Well, come on in and help me with supper then. And she did. The end.